Fala galera, bem-vindos de volta a Gapless, Teacher Felipe aqui com vocês. Estamos aqui hoje para uma aula de Reading, a Reading Class. E tema de hoje muito importante, as algas que fixam o carbono da atmosfera estão sendo papadas por um ouriço do mar. Eu trago para vocês um tema que foi publicado no Washington Post no começo de julho, chamado The Cientists Fighting to Save the Ocean's Most Important Carbon Capture System. Bora o texto. Anacapa Island, California, é onde se dá o texto. Frank Hurd gently parted the curtains of giant kelp that reached upward through the cold waters of North Pacific looking for signs of life. Esse pesquisador está viajando pelas costas marítimas para encontrar vida desses kelps. O que são kelps? São as algas gigantes que fixam carbono da atmosfera de volta para o oceano. Kelp forests cover a quarter of the world's coastline, stretching from Antarctica to Australia, Mexico to Alaska, providing food and shelter for thousands of species, while sucking carbon from the atmosphere. But over the past decade, thanks to warming waters and overfishing, they are disappearing. Então, existiam essas algas e estão desaparecendo por causa de aumento de temperatura global e overfishing, pesca exagerada. On this afternoon, Hurd, a marine biologist on Natural Conservancy, said he was relieved to find thick kelp canopies surrounding the unpolluted patch of Anacapa Island, part of the Channel Island National Park in California. But he says such refuges are becoming harder to find. The scale of this problem is dire, Hurd said. Então, ele encontrou ali mais uma boa quantidade dessas algas, mas não é o suficiente ainda, e está cada vez mais difícil de encontrar. The fate of the world's kelp forests may depend on controlling its sworn enemy. Depende do controle do seu pior inimigo, seaurchins, ouriços do mar. And the Nature Conservancy, an Arlington-based environmental group, says it has a plan. It's touting urchins as a culinary cuisine, hoping to appeal to commercial fishermen who could scoop them out of the ocean. It is also attempting to increase the population of their natural predators, sea stars, and growing kelp in controlled environmental before releasing the algae back to the sea. Resumindo, eles estão dizendo que esse ouriço do mar é comestível, eles estão cultivando de volta o predador desse ouriço do mar e devolvendo esse predador para o oceano para consumir, ou seja, eles querem acabar com esse ouriço do mar. There really is no single silver bullet option to solve this problem. We need to invest in comprehensive solution and reestablish healthy, resilient ecosystems, Hurd said. Kelp are essentially the ocean's equivalent of trees. They absorb carbon dioxide and nitrogen compounds, helping clean the atmosphere while capturing up 20 times more carbon per acre than land forests. They also provide a vital habitat for a broad range of marine life. Without them, entire ocean ecosystems would crumble. Então, não apenas para a fixação do carbono atmosférico, essas algas trazem esse carbono, esse alimento para outras espécies marinhas. Sem contar que fixa 20 vezes mais o carbono em comparação com land forests, florestas na Terra. But the size of kelp forests off the coast of Northern California has shrunk by more than 95% since 2014, according to satellite data analyzed by Natural Conservancy. Other regions have had similar losses. Tasmania's canopies have decreased by 95%, as have Chile's. Globally, kelp forests along coastlines have declined by a third over the past decade. Diminuíram por terço na última década, according to a paper published in the American Institute of Biological Sciences journal, Bioscience. There's been a catastrophic loss, said Tom Dempsey, the Nature Conservancy's California Oceans Program Director, and it's been all but completely ignored. The problem was exacerbated along the California coast by a 2013 heat wave, uma onda de calor. The average kelp canopy cover of the coast of Mendocino and Sonoma counties in Northern California fell from 2 million square meter to 6,000 square meter over the course of 2 years, according to the Nature Conservancy. This marine heat wave, known as the blob, along with the fast-spreading marine virus, all but wiped the sunflower sea star, the main predator of the urchins. Então existe uma estrela do mar que preda esse ouriço do mar, mas teve uma onda de calor, teve ataque de vírus que diminuiu a população dessa estrela do mar. It's like the endless parking lot stretching for miles and miles in every direction, covered in purple urchins, Dempsey said. With few starfish, the urchin population exploded up to 100 times their previous numbers. The Nature Conservancy began looking for ways to get the urchin population under control in 2018. Traditionally, efforts to cull the spread of urchins, the purple, rather than the marketable red or green species, consisted of volunteer divers swimming out to the sea and smashing the spiky echinoderms with a hammer. Exatamente. Eles estavam pedindo para mergulhadores descer para o fundo do mar e acabar com os ouriços do mar a marteladas. Uma vez que o purple, o roxo, não é o utilizado para o mercado, não é comercializável, em comparação com o red e o green, o ouriço do mar verde e vermelho. But that would take too long, they decided. And the group began testing some alternatives. Então, a marteladas não ia dar certo. First, they hoped to increase commercial demand for sea urchins, noting that their cells contain calcium carbonate that could be made into fertilizer or used in cosmetics. They also hoped to popularize yoni, the reproductive organs of the urchins, as a restaurant cuisine. É quase como que comercializar caviar. São as unidades reprodutivas desse ouriço do mar. But the type typically considered cuisine are not the invasive purple variety that eat all the roots of kelps. A variedade roxa não é utilizada em restaurantes. Purple urchin is definitely the less desired species in the seafood market, Dempsey said. The organization is also trying to find ways to revive the sea urchin's predator, the sea star. The sea star population has fallen victim to warning waters too, allowing the urchin population to skyrocket. Decolar a população de ouriços do mar. Sea stars are sorely missed in our near-shore environment, and having them back is critical, said Scott Groth, head of the Marine Resources Program at Oregon's Department of Fish and Wildlife, which has reported a sharp decline in sea stars. In 2019, the Nature's Conservancy team collected 28 adults of sea star to create a breeding colony, uma colônia de estrelas do mar melhoradas geneticamente. One sea star was nicknamed after Vincent van Gogh because its pattern was similar to the artist's paintings, while another was named after Prince because of its purple arms. But the first effort largely flopped. The team didn't know what to feed the juvenile starfish or even what type of water they thrived in. Eles se sucediam. This year, the Nature Conservancy says it's raising another batch, which has already produced thousands of juvenile starfish. This time they separated individual starfish by size to keep cannibalism at a minimum, and crushed individual babies by valves, including tiny clams and oysters for juvenile starfish to eat. Então eles começaram a fazer cruzamento de estrelas do mar, separavam esses juvenis, é o termo, entre tamanhos e começaram a fazer estudos. We tried out sorts of possible foods, container types, flow designs, water change frequency, level of infiltration, numbers of juveniles per container, and etc. Jason Holding, marine larvologist at the University of Washington, said, "Now we've figured things out. We're hoping to scale this up as much as we can." Escalar isso o tanto quanto eles conseguirem. But even that may not be enough. Hundreds of thousands of sea stars would be needed across the California coast to make a dent in the tens of millions of sea urchins decimating the kelp. Então, ainda assim, eles precisariam de muito estrela do mar consumindo esses ouriços do mar. To aid their efforts, the Nature Conservancy launched an experimental kelp farm in April with Green Wave, an organization that specializes in regenerative ocean farming. They're growing kelp in industrial tanks and then plan to transfer them into a Pacific Ocean once. Então, quem estava fazendo pesquisa sobre as estrelas do mar agora está entrando em contato com uma outra empresa, uma outra organização que consegue multiplicar isso e fazer as Green Wave, ondas verdes. The group hopes that strategically placed kelp farms will be encouraged to connect with wild kelp patches through the spore dispersal, Dempsey said. Essentially, like filling in a chessboard, he said. But he added, it's going to take time and lots of funding. Unfortunately, for kelp forest and the countless species that rely on them, both time and funding are in short supply. Então a gente que está aqui vivendo o nosso dia e achando que o aquecimento global, na maioria das vezes, é culpa nossa do ser humano, tem culpa do ser humano, não é esse o ponto da aula. Os cientistas estão focando em algas que fixam esse nitrogênio atmosférico de volta ao oceano, que supre vidas de outras espécies e que mantém a temperatura da Terra estável. Basicamente é isso. Eu acho um tema muito importante. Se vocês têm dicas de outros temas, pode deixar aí nos comentários. Comenta se vocês acharam que eu li muito rápido, se vocês gostariam que eu lesse mais devagar, se vocês gostariam que eu pausasse mais explicando cada parágrafo. E, obviamente, se vocês aprenderam um pouquinho com isso, deixa um like aí no vídeo, manda para algum amigo que está estudando inglês e eu vou adorar ver que vocês estão gostando desses vídeos. Valeu?